Welcome to another exciting episode of the $1 Million Paddlers. I'm Papergoy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
And anybody new to the channel, I'm Papergoy. I've got over 40,000 items now. We've been listing some.
Nice.
People aren't buying enough. What's wrong with that?
True.
Work out of my house, got a day job, so trying to juggle all of that. And you are?
I'm Mr. Magazine with over 500,000 items, 15 employees, one warehouse, and we're actually looking for another warehouse.
There you go. So
Crazy.
if anybody out there has one, somebody out there has one in Duluth, will that help you?
No.
A little bit of travel time there.
Or Depew.
So this actually is a subscriber idea. Don't want to get too far into his details, but he did email me and say that he had a situation where he ended up in the hospital for a period of time. And he came out of it. He was in the hospital for a number of days. And sales continued, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, given his situation, sales continued, and then all of a sudden he got out, shipments were late, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, that is a problem if you're a one-man band, certainly. But you've got problems as well if all of a sudden something or other were to happen to you.
Yeah.
And it isn't just health situations. You were mentioning before the show when I mentioned what the topic was about other backup plans that you may possibly have. So I guess the first thing I want to say to everybody out there is take a step back, stop, think about your situation, and begin to get backup plans just in general. If you are a one-man band, can your wife handle things on a short-term basis if all of a sudden you were incapacitated? I'll give you a perfect example. I've got the situation where I've got a lot of stuff stored in the attic and I've got stuff stored in the basement. Let's say I broke my leg. How am I getting up those attic stairs? It's not happening. Then I would have random neighborhood kid, and news to him. I would have him scurrying up and down into the attic to get things because I wouldn't be able to do so.
Well, for $1,500, you could buy those chairs that go up and down the stairs for the elderly.
Yes, I could. I probably will need those at one point. I'm pretty darn
They
close.
have a little basket or something on the back. So you could put
I don't know if those work with pull-down attic things, though. I'm not thinking those work very well with that. I have to hook that up each time
for
to
the
do
basement, you got that, and then you got the random neighborhood kid for the attic. Perfect.
Well, or I could put in a fire pole. Then getting down is the easy part.
True, yeah.
So you were mentioning, though, before we get into any contingency plans you may have for if you suddenly end up in a hospital, you were mentioning another issue that I hadn't thought about until you mentioned it, and that would be what if something or other were to happen on one of the selling platforms?
Yeah, see, that's a bigger deal to me. I mean, if I'm in a coma for a week or a month, I got enough people, employees, managers, I think they can get me through that if needed. It would suck. Or my wife could just pull the plug. Either which way, we have a backup plan there. But easy solution either way.
Why do you have that? Why do you have that pillow? I'm fine.
Yeah, we have the insurance policy up to date. She pulls the plug. There's one backup plan. She's getting some money. Unfortunately, my employees would need to find a job, so that would suck.
Oh no, she could sell the business to me for $1.380, and we keep going.
Yeah, so we can get through a month of something like that if I'm in a coma. God forbid. But at this point, my backup plan now has to be the website for survival. Meaning, if Amazon booted me off for some reason, that would be worse than me being in a coma. Because pretty much, I think when you're off for good. I don't think they let you. eBay gives you the warnings. I think Amazon, you have to come up with a solution. If not, you're done. So, obviously, the website would be my backup solution for that. We're saving, addresses. Even to this day, we're still saving all the receipts, the orders with Amazon address, because in case they did, you never know. We have a backup plan, which would be the website. eBay, the way things are going right now, not that I want to get rid of them, but they're less valuable to me than Amazon it is at this point. Getting rid of that adult stuff and so forth.
Okay, so your concern more is if all of a sudden your venue went down.
Correct. Yeah.
Let me bring up another question, and I know you don't have a backup plan for this, and neither do I. Anybody not in this region, but you've got your own situations in your regions. We had a really bad ice storm back in 1991, and the internet went down. Well, internet wasn't a big thing back
right.
then, if it all was. But people were without power for weeks at a time.
Yeah, that'd be brutal.
Weeks at a time.
Sure.
One advantage that we all have at this point that we did not have years ago is we do have the cell phones, and those were not around. I would certainly suggest to everybody, if you haven't already done so, get the various apps on your cell phone when you can do so, as opposed to being in a panic and get it. Now, I know I've mentioned before, I'm old school. I don't like to stay logged in on things like that. So definitely know your passwords, but have it available to you. There have been situations where, like, for example, when I go to the Madison Bachville, I do use the phone long enough to accept offers.
Right.
And then I've got the email set up so I can answer questions, that kind of thing. I had a situation a couple of years ago, and it was poor planning on my part. I was actually out of town for a week, and I kind of started Amazon a little too early, and I came home and I had a bunch of orders that were late shipment.
Right.
To the point that actually I got some warnings on the account. And as soon as I got home, I immediately started shipping those out first thing. Just we got to stop the bleeding, got to take care of it.
Right.
And that's since disappeared because that was a few years ago. But I certainly learned my lesson like that. So if all of a sudden, say you do end up going in a hospital, as long as you've got the apps on there and you are somewhat coherent, you can shut things down.
Right. Now, is it better to put your stores on vacation during the week because you have to ship in those couple days, where the weekend they give you that grace period?
Yeah, and that was what I was planning. Is what ended up happening, and this actually happened to me real recently. When I did go out of town for a couple of days, I came back to a late shipment. Now, here's the crazy thing. I left about noon on a Thursday. I was at Amazon. I was completely up to date on shipping. Well, apparently somebody had bought something on Wednesday, but their payment hadn't gone through.
Oh, that's happened before.
The payment went through while I was gone. I came home, and it was late shipment because Amazon wanted me to ship it out Wednesday when I didn't get paid till Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Right.
So it came in as a late shipment. But definitely do have the things on your phone so that you can shut things down if you need to. Almost like a circuit breaker kind of deal. Like, okay, shut this all down. We'll deal with it when we get back.
Right.
I know that they say don't cancel orders and that kind of thing on eBay and Amazon, but I think it would be better. You find yourself in the hospital and there's absolutely nobody, or you're stranded out of town for a couple of days and nobody can really do anything.
Yeah.
You're better off canceling the orders and dealing with that fallout than not fulfilling the orders.
Sure.
As far as that goes. And these things happen. Certainly for somebody like me, it could happen.
Yeah.
You had a situation. It wasn't really a big situation, but a number of years ago, you went on a cruise, as I remember.
Yeah.
The Love Boat, exciting and new. And you ended up giving us a call, but even the amount of time you could call, the amount of internet you could use, et cetera, was very, very limited.
Yeah.
Luckily, at that time, I had more time to dedicate to the business, so I kind of knew how to keep things running.
Sure.
And that would come in if you have employees. Definitely train the employees that they can step up and do what they need to do, at least on a couple of day basis, until a real plan can come in. Because you just never do know on that.
Well, that was another big thing for me, taking vacations in the past. You were doing all the printing, and then as we were growing, printing's getting more and more and more and time consuming for me if I went away for you. But at least now we got the assistant manager that can help out in that. He's learning every day. He's helping me do it. I leave him some every day, eBay and Amazon. So, if I do decide to go into a coma or a vacation
decide to go into a coma. You know what I think I'm going to do today? I'm going to go into a coma.
Or if I'm gone for a week or something like that, at least you guys should have it covered between the two of you. So that that helps me sleep at night, knowing like, hey, we're covered now on that if that were to happen. So that's a good thing, good backup plan.
Yeah, definitely. And and again, there are things that just happen that you just absolutely you cannot plan for, obviously.
Yeah.
But as best you can, try to get some kind of a plan in place. Make sure you talk with people. I know that the experts say not to write your password down, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe write your password down and hide it somewhere.
Yeah.
That it's a lot easier for me to tell my wife all the passwords are hidden in the cupboard underneath the flour than it is trying to remember all of my passwords.
Or I have that password book and it's hidden in my desk drawer somewhere in the desk drawer, but like
it's hidden so well you can't find it.
Right, but I mean, it's amazing how many passwords are on there and how often I need to get at that. So definitely pick one up or use whatever works for you.
Yeah. And so the other issue that I potentially have is I do use the two-factor authentication on my phone.
Sure.
as well. So even having the password on some of the sites may not help.
Yeah.
And that would be one of those things. Luckily, the wife does know the password to the phone, so she would be able to do that. But she's never dealt with that kind of site before, and that would be where, maybe I will sit down with her and Random Neighborhood Kid after this and just say, look, if anything were to happen, you're going to get two-factor. You're going to get this password texted to you. That's what you put in over here, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Because you just don't know. And that's the whole point of having a contingency plan, is it's for an emergency.
Right.
It's easy enough for you to know that next week you're going on vacation, and you do go away for weekends from time to time during the summer, et cetera, and you do stress.
Yeah.
You really do. And you're like, you're going to print this out. You're going to handle this, right? You're going to handle this to the various people, make sure everybody knows what their jobs are, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were hit by a bus. I hear that happens to people. Imagine you were hit by a bus and you wound up in the hospital. You have to trust enough that the various people can step forward and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
But some of you out there may be selling on eBay and Amazon, and people don't even know that you are necessarily. You sell just a few items. Well, what happens when those end up selling? Obviously, your number one concern is get better. I mean, obviously that's the number one concern.
Yeah.
But the backup as well is, geez, do I have something in place? And with the natural disasters and that kind of thing, I know eBay does their absolute best to try to mitigate that. If you don't have power because of a hurricane for a week, they try not to ding your account, et cetera, et cetera. They understand this stuff has happened.
You can put it on vacation mode, and as long as you have computer access, obviously, and don't be afraid to do it. Don't be worried about what you're going to lose, because that's better than the alternative of getting in trouble with them.
Right. Yep. So I don't know if we provided you with any answers other than make sure you download the apps and make sure that people are in on the loop with your business as best as possible. But it is definitely something other that you do need to think about. Unfortunately, everything doesn't always go like clockwork. So it is good to have a backup plan, as a subscriber found out, and as I've known as well, because there was a time when I had to go to a hospital for a couple of days, and I came out and shipments were late, et cetera, et cetera. It just ends up happening, and obviously it wasn't. I hadn't planned to go to the hospital.
Right.
It just all of a sudden it's like, get him into emergency now, and I was an emergency. I had my phone, didn't have a charger, that kind of deal. And then you got to have people bringing you chargers. You got to have people doing this. Got to have people doing that.
Sure.
So you just never know. I have no data. What am I going to do?
Jeez.
But that just even in of itself shows all of the different things, and it's impossible to plan for all the contingencies. But at least if you're kind of starting to think that way, you can work your way through. Do hit the like button. Do comment down below on your contingency plan if you happen to have one, or any tips that you have for anybody out there, or any situations that you've been in. Not that we want to read about them, but it's good for us to read about them, because that way we can all prepare as well. And we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.